A lot of people think that investing in the poor is the best option for every country, that will actually be called progress. But sometimes, and most of the times, it isn't. And when this doesn't happen, when the government does not invest in the poor, revolutions start. My name is Mauricio Fernandez, and the reason why I'm here is to talk to you about why revolutions don't work, and they are a completely waste of time, and also they are inefficient into creating a prosperous society. There's only one simple reason why revolutions don't work. People who revolt can't understand that the problem isn't the leaders, they're the ones in charge of their country. The real problem relies within its country and within its people and society. If they don't understand this, all the time, resources, civilian casualties, and the bad reputation of the country during the revolution is going to be completely in vain. For example, the reasons why revolutions don't work is because you do not start fresh. It is the same mental habits, same tendencies, and same basic thought patterns. Also, all the groups and citizens will have the same interests. For example, the rich will want to continue to stay rich. One perfect example is Televisa. Imagine that El PRI is overthrown by a revolution, by a revolt, and a new political party named, let's say, Ciudadanía comes in. Do you think that Televisa, with all its power and influence that it has on the country, doesn't want to stay in power and stay with that type of influence? That's not going to change, because Televisa has already all that power. For our revolution to work, everybody has to be on the same train, and it is almost impossible. Now, something that does work is, for example, Porfirio Diaz. With his iron fist ruling, he knew what Mexico needed at that specific time. For example, he knew that Mexico had to be recovered by pervasive economic action from the above, and not by the promotion of social reform from below. What does that mean? That means that Porfirio Diaz knew that he had to give opportunities for the rich people in Mexico to invest in companies of mining and railroads, and also had to open future relationships with foreign countries so that he could receive foreign investments so that Mexico could progress. And that's what he did. For example, in the railroad companies, imagine, it helped Mexico be allowed to trade with the United States. 70% of the goods inside of Mexico were sent to the United States. That allowed a lot of economical progress and also a very good reputation with the United States and other countries. Countries didn't want to invest in Mexico because it had a very bad reputation. There were a lot of civil wars, a lot of international issues with Mexico and other countries, that people were scared because Mexico wasn't stable. And this allowed Mexico to stabilize and start gaining a lot of relationships, and it started to open a lot of opportunities. For example, also in the mining. This helped Mexico a lot economically and socially also, creating a lot of jobs. All of this was due to one thing, and Porfirio Diaz knew that he was going to be criticized about it, that it was unethical, and that it wasn't morally accepted. But you know what he did? He said, Mexico needs this for it to be able to grow, so I'm going to do it. He abolished ejidos. Ejidos are known as communal lands where a lot of poor people live. And what he did is he took all those poor people, sent them away, and all those big chunks of land, as you can see in the picture right here, he gave them to people who have the capital to invest and companies that were actually going to produce value to Mexico, such as money and foreign opportunities. And that helped Mexico. Because what Porfirio Diaz eventually wanted was that all the profits from trade and commerce would eventually trickle down through the middle class and into the lower class, creating and providing opportunities of growth. So that is what Porfirio Diaz thought that Mexico needed, and that's what he did, and that's why Mexico is the country that it is right now, because of his iron fist ruling. Now I want to compare his ruling to this guy right here, Lee Kuan Yew. He was the dictator of Singapore for 31 years. He was the first prime minister of Singapore. Also, just as Porfirio Diaz, forcing himself into that political party. Singapore grew from an impoverished third world nation once called a poor little market in a dark corner of Asia to a first world country in one single generation, just because of this guy and his fist and this iron fist type of ruling. For example, this is one thing that he says. He said, "I am often accused of interfering in the private lives of citizens. Yes," he says, had I not done that, we wouldn't be here today. And I say without the slightest remorse that we wouldn't be here. We would not have made economic progress if we had not intervened on very personal matters. This type of behavior and this type of actions that were taken by Porfirio Diaz and by Lee Kuan Yew made Singapore and Mexico progress in ways that it wouldn't if it hasn't been for this type of ruling. Thank you very much, and thank you for watching.